And here we go. So Penner's just started. We've got Keith on the bottom, Johnholio on the top. Keith on the more control deck, Johnholio on the streamlined Argenport deck. The decks will look a little similar, although some have a little bit higher spells and more reliance on the market. John's a little lower to the ground, a little more streamlined. So John's going to play out a Suroff on turn 2. Keith's going to go ahead and play out a Crownbreaker on turn 2. Two solid units here. All right, Johnholio going to scout to the top. Let's see what Keith's got in hand. Got a Valkyrie Enforcer, going to be able to take care of that Suroff next turn. Got a Harsh Rule. That's really going to change out how they play this match. They can let Johnholio go wide, play out more units before they fire off that Harsh Rule. But very, very good reactory spells here. Enforcer is great. Harsh Rule is going to be solid at taking care of a bunch of units, and Runehammer taking care of anything that's pesky. And then they can follow it up with a Wing Brewer to restock their hand and then play some Vampire Bats. We didn't get to see Wing Brewer go off earlier in the match. We might be able to see that here. Johnholio going to play out the Defiance to take care of that Crownbreaker. I'm not sure that Keith cares all that much. A little unfortunate, but getting that Defiance out of the hand. Looks like Keith is really going to be the one who wants to go the late game here, so probably doesn't care too much about that Defiance. See what John has to follow it up. All right, going to pass the turn back. Keith's going to scout to the top. Ooh, Johnholio is going to flash in, ambush in a Cabal Countess. The ultimate is pay 4 to give it +2 and quick draw. And it does a lot of damage. Vulnerable, the one health dies pretty easily, but if you activate that, you can do a lot of damage, can pack a lot of punch and hard to block. Attack in for 4, knock Keith down to 21. Suffocate, can take care of that Valkyrie Enforcer. Again, Keith probably not that unhappy about that. Really have Johnholio keep playing out some units, follow up that Harsh Rule, and then stabilize later with the Wing Brewer or another powerful unit. Also has the Windchest Merchant to be able to draw something. Let's see what they have in their market. They've got a Slay, a Regent's Tomb, Inquisitor Mokto, Palace, and Vision of Austerity. Johnholio going to play Inquisitor's Blade on the Seraph, give it flying, make it a vanilla flying 3/6. So going to be something that Keith is going to need to deal with here. Maybe not immediately, but a unit that will have to be answered at some point by Keith before they can take over this game. Keith's got to love this empty board, though. Fetched a Slay from the market to take care of that Seraph and keeps Johnholio off of any units on the board, which is exactly what they want to see. John's going to play out the Crown Watch Paladin, 2/2 Aegis Warcry. Keith hitting all their power. It's not stumbled yet. Might be time to run out that Wing Brewer. And there we go. Maybe we'll actually get to see Wing Brewer stick this time. Goldie, that's a good question. If you draw a Blade and you don't have units, yes, it whiffs. It draws off the top of the deck and it goes right to your yard. It goes right to your void. We saw that earlier in the in a different match. Very frustrating when that happens, but that is what would happen. If you keep an empty board, it goes right to the void. All right, John with a Copperhall Bailiff. Someone gives enemy units -1 and gives them -1 permanently. That is not until end of turn. So that's going to make Keith's units not look great here, but Keith still has the Wing Brewer to draw the cards. Doesn't care what the power is on Wing Brewer. Can still draw those cards. Sees a Death Strike on top. Going to keep that on top. Now, notably, these are Warcry units, so even though Keith is going to be able to take care of them, it is going to pump up whatever else he draws. And there you go. There's the Inquisitor Blade. Now, it was not an empty board this time. Had a unit and a unit with Aegis to play on there, which is even better. Keith is going to be wanting, and the Street Urchin takes that. I don't remember, did Keith leave that Death Strike on top? Because if they did, John just took it with Street Urchin. If not, no harm done. But that's not good shape for Keith there. Going to want to fire off this Harsh Rule, but is going to need to get rid of this Paladin. Yeah, I thought it did have that Death Strike on top. That's a big draw for John to take that with the Street Urchin. Keith's going to want to have to fire off this Harsh Rule, but is going to need another answer for this Paladin because of that Aegis. Can Harsh Rule first and then takes this and hope to find an answer? Well, there's an answer. Can't cast both this turn. I guess has the Vampire Bat, so is able to chump this. A Pristine Light. Oh, and Pristine Light back the Wing Brewer. Is going to Pristine Light to draw back the Wing Brewer because it died this turn. Nice little combo there. Is going to pop the Aegis on the Paladin and be able to Harsh Rule the following turn, if Keith even wants to do that. But now has that option available with that popped Aegis and the Vampire Bat's chump. If anyone saw the Pauper tournament 2 weeks ago or saw any of the VODs, you learned that Vampire Bats, those can do a good job of chump blocking, keeping you alive, as Eric 9099 showed us 2 weeks ago. And if you haven't watched that, I recommend you go watch that VOD because that is an epic game between Matty Oker and Eric 9099 from last tournament. John going to attack in, keep Keith on the back foot here. Let's see if Keith commits to this Harsh Rule. Looks like they are. A Wing Brewer of his own. Not able to activate it, though, and this is going to be a clutch Harsh Rule for Keith on this turn. Just really reset the board and have a plethora of powerful units coming down. And that attack's just going to go ahead and show that. Follow up with the Harsh Rule. Going to clear the way for Keith's 2 powerful 7-drops and getting the Wing Brewer back to draw more cards. Now the Inquisitor's Blade goes back again. And to play out the Fenrir Nightshade. And wait on that Wing Brewer until they're able to activate it in the same turn. Keith probably knows that John has the Death Strike that was stolen as well. All right, John, 5 cards in hand, one of them the Death Strike. See if it fires it off here. Doesn't necessarily need to. See if they can bait the Death Strike on this 3-2. Now, of course, the Nightshade does draw cards. Killing enemy moves. Okay, so Necessary Measures is able to take care of that. Notably, John is still stuck on 4 power. So after this long game with so many threats, John is still only at 4 power, whereas Keith is at a large 9. But going to play the Wing Brewer now. He's going to be able to draw some cards and then play a Svetya. Going to stop John from playing any spells or weapons till the next turn. Not going to be able to kill the Wing Brewer. Not going to be able to kill the Svetya. Let's see if Keith can finally take over the game like they've been wanting to for a while now. They've been very patient, played this game very well, very patient on the Harsh Rule, really biding their time, playing out that removal to really get to this late part of the game where they can take over. Well, should, but I believe they can't cast the Death Strike because the enemy player can't play spells or weapons until the next turn, so Svetya shut off the Death Strike this turn. Now, next turn, of course, can. Let's see if Keith slams one of the big 7-drops. Knowing that John has the Death Strike in hand. Keith draws Cargo for the turn. He's going to fire off Wing Brewer to draw another card. Ooh, and they choose Honor of Claws. That's a good card to draw. Really can reset their hand. If it comes down to an even later game, if Keith can't take over here, having the Honor of Claws is going to be huge. Playing out the Tell, it's going to be exactly what they need. Pump the Svetya. And now John can fire off the Death Strike, but even if you kill the Tellet, you've still got a 7/7 Svetya to deal with And not to mention the Wing Brewer, which can take over the game all its way. Absolutely. That's one of the fun things about these Singleton tournaments. We've been able to see some really sweet cards. Really sweet cards that you don't necessarily see in other tournaments or in other gameplay as much. I can tell it's been an incredibly powerful card in the few games that we've seen them. Keith draws Lost Scroll for turn. Not exactly a powerhouse of what they need at this point in the game. Going to start off with Strategize. And John's going to take this time to Deathstrike the Svetya. Keith draws Smuggler and Desecrate. Lots of good options for Smuggler if they want to go that route. But they've already got a Tella that needs to be answered on the board. Going to play out the Smuggler. Probably go for Korrivat Palace, which they can play this turn. Give the units Berserk, and that actually might... Oh, it's not quite game. Not quite game, but that's going to be really close. John has to chump. He's going to take 1 damage from the Instigator, go down to 10, and then take another... Oh, actually, it does attack twice, so it pumps itself again. My mistake. I'm sorry. Because it attacks again, it triggers itself again and is able to do the lethal. So that was lethal. Very good play. Smart play by Keith there. Very well played. Very patient game. Very patient game. Great job. Great job by Keith. Very patient. Well played. Got to see some really powerhouse cards there. We saw an earlier game where Keith had all the removal but didn't have the big power to follow it up. And you can see the difference there when had the removal and was able to follow that up with some important threats, made the difference in that game. Yeah, with the second block attack would have been different. That's true. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that does against the... If they was able to face the Rakano aggro deck again, we'll see who's able to take the lead at that point. All right. Let's go down for game 2. This is still best of 3 here. All right, Keith is going to keep a 2-power hand with a Permafrost and Annihilate, Vara, Black Sky Harbinger, and Wing Brewer in hand. Have access to all the influence that they need, but 2-power is not really what Keith's deck wants to be stuck on, so hopefully they can draw some more. Reclaim will help with that when we get to that point in the game. Keith sees a Justice Sigil on top, exactly what they want there. Leave that up so they can hit that reclaim. Really just want to hit your power drops at this point. Yes, Vara is double shadow, but at this point you just really need to hit all your power. And that's going to make that reclaim useful later as well. John with nothing on the first 2. Going to play Seek Answers here. Play on Narjapur Banner. Not the quickest start from John, which I'm sure Keith loves to see. Going to play out the Wing Brewer. Now the Wing Brewer cannot attack to trigger Onslaught. Not that it needs to. John plays the 4th power. It's going to fire off the sleigh. Does not want Keith drawing any cards off of that Wing Brewer. Going to take care of it when they have the chance. Keith going to follow up another power. Make sure they hit that 4th power drop. And John's going to drop Chemo, putting a whole bunch of Blade Breakers, 7/7 weapons with Warcry into their deck, and hit another power drop. So John's hitting the power drops this time. Keith's going to fire off that Annihilate, take care of the 3/3 Warcry. And it's going to continue to hit their power and play out a Reclaim. Keith drawing the power that they needed here. Fire off that Justice Sigil. John's going to play out a Howling Kurtar. Deadly, Endurance, Pledge, Empower, +2/+2, and Flying this turn. Pretty powerful unit, but nothing Keith can't handle. It dodges the Permafrost, which is useful. But Keith's just going to play out a Black Sky Harbinger. Doesn't really do anything to the enemy unit, but is a threat that now John is going to have to deal with. And of course, Keith has more removal in the bank. But John's got the Desecrate ready to take care of the Harbinger. And it's going to attack for 3. Keith draws Suffocate, which says kill units 3 or less. Also is going to play End of the Story. Going to warp that off the top of the deck to take care of John's only creature and essentially draw a card because of playing that off the top of the deck. Then is going to play a Scout land, scout a Sigil to the bottom of the deck. Not going to need that. All right, Necessary Measures. Draw a unit in your deck is the only one with that name. Pretty useful card in Singleton when every unit in your deck is the only one with that name. So we'll see what John took from their deck with that. Keith draws another power. He's going to play out Vara here. John, having no units, cannot sacrifice 1, so Vara is going to be by default a 5/5 Deadly Lifesteal, another unit that John is going to have to answer. Now there's a lot of removal in those colors, so presumably they have tools to do so. But do they have them in hand? John's going to play out Mokdo, which can trade for the Vara and come back if they want, but Keith's got the perfect answer for Mokdo, which is the Permafrost. To make it so Mokdo cannot die at the moment and not go back into the top of the deck. And then he's going to play Svetya, preventing John from casting any spells this turn or weapons. And attack in for 5 with Vara, knocking John down to 16. Keith with a Suffocate and an Ice Bolt in the bank, ready to go for whatever unit John plays here. John's going to play out a Merchant. See what they grab from the market. Of course, Keith has the Suffocate for the Merchant if needed. And still cannot play spells or weapons this turn because of Svetya's ability. I'm going to play out another Merchant to grab something else from the market. Options in the market for John are Nullblade, Tell It, Harsh Rule, Sleepless Night, and Withstand. Pristine Light could be pretty good, that's true. Withstand on Mokdo would get rid of the Permafrost if needed. John did not have Pristine Light in the market unless put there from something else earlier in the game. Got Harsh Rule. It's not surprising, yep. Going to go ahead and chump block with the Merchant, go down to 12. Follow up with a Harsh Rule here, hopefully. If it is Harsh Rule, that actually plays well with Mokdo as well. But they got Withstand. They got Withstand. Both Harsh Rule and Withstand would have gotten that. But in response, going to Ice Bolt to take care of that Mokdo before it can get +4/+4 and get out of Ice Bolt range. Now, of course, Mokdo goes back into the deck, but going to activate Svetya's ability, and he's going to draw Hidden Road Smuggler and drew Merchant for turn. John's going to play out Dizo's Office to take care of the Vara, but it's going to have to sacrifice that for Svetya, or Keith might just go face here and hit John down to 3. And fetching the Palace from the market, not going to matter. That's going to be lethal, as we saw last game. Going to go ahead and attack with Svetya, and that will be game. And Keith is going to take that 2